Today, I want to talk about 3 companies, and the first one is Palantir Technologies. I'll take some time on it. One of the most controversial stocks in the market right now, a company that has become a battleground between some of the most famous bulls and bears on Wall Street. I'm going to go deep into why investors are shorting Palantir and what the short thesis actually looks like, and why this stock has become such a lightning rod for debate. And also, I'm going to cover ServiceNow. They have their earnings coming up in just a couple of weeks. And so I want to go over the expected numbers and also talk about the things that I'm going to be watching for in this earnings announcement, and also giving a little price prediction of where I think the stock could go over the next 12 to 18 months. And also I'll briefly talk about Alibaba. Alibaba year to date has fallen by almost 28%. We saw it get very close to a kind of $200, and now the stock has pulled back all the way below $100 just a couple of weeks ago. So it's now bounced up to $112. So there is some very interesting news. It's not confirmed news, but I want to talk about it a little bit and what it could mean for Alibaba, especially over the next month or so. And as always, if you do enjoy this type of content, make sure to drop a like down below and subscribe for more videos like this one. Let's go ahead and jump into ServiceNow. ServiceNow closed the week at $107.71 per share on July 10th, after trading as a low of $105.71 during the session. So it is down significantly over the course of the last year, the 52-week range of 81.24 to 210.20, meaning it's down about 46.87% from its peak. Back in July of 2025, this was a stock that was sitting around $200. And if we go back even further to 52-week high of 210, it's down by almost 50%. And if you are being honest, basically none of that drop has to do with earnings or the fundamentals of the company. Fundamentally, the business is very strong, and the upcoming earnings are expected to be announced for Q2 2026 on July 22nd after the market closes. And right now, analysts are expecting the company to put up around $3.93 billion of revenue, and that's an increase of roughly 22% year over year, with EPS or bottom line numbers coming in around $0.86, which is only a very slight increase from last year when they put up 82 cents of earnings. For Q1, just looking back at the numbers that they put up last quarter, they grew their subscription revenue by 22% year over year. So they grew their total revenue by 22% as well. Obviously, these two numbers are very interconnected. Most of their revenue comes from subscriptions. So just keep that in mind. That also provides a very stable base for ServiceNow. Subscription business models are very good recurring top-line numbers businesses, so that's great to see. And I think that 22% is going to be a number that ServiceNow should easily hit. If we see a number coming in lower than that, that is going to throw investors off guard, and they are going to be a little bit turned off to the stock. So if we see them come through with 24, 25 or 26 top line growth, that's going to be very exciting for investors, because we are going to see kind of a acceleration of top line numbers and potentially more customers coming into ServiceNow's ecosystem. So the most bullish signal in the quarter was the mega deal pipeline. ServiceNow closed 16 transactions over $5 million in net new annual contract value, up 80% year over year. Annual contract value, the yearly revenue committed in each new contract, is a forward-looking order metric. Now, and a surge in large ACV deals typically precedes subscription revenue acceleration in subsequent quarters, because these contracts take months to onboard and expand. So the market seemed to ignore this entirely. So ServiceNow is a kind of going through a phase where they are trying to grow their top line numbers very quickly right now because they see an opportunity in the market. So hopefully over the next couple of years, we'll see that translate better to strong bottom line growth as well. ServiceNow needs to obviously execute much this year on their revenue growth that we are talking about, and they need to come through and continue to grow their top line numbers. So in my opinion, when it comes to ServiceNow, putting some conservative numbers behind their business and what they could do over the next couple of years, let's just say they put up $5.3 of EPS, and I think a reasonable PE ratio for a company growing their top line by around 20% should be 35. So if we throw those numbers behind this company, we are talking about a stock that should be closer to around $175 per share. So that's about 65 upside from the current share price. And again, I think those are conservative estimates for what ServiceNow could do over the next years. But like I said, keep in mind that you need to do more work and research. Now, Alibaba has been a tough one this year because it spiked to around $180 per share and then proceeded to drop below 100, which was a 46% decline in the share price. So it's since bounced to around 112 currently, and they have the earnings coming up here sometime in August. It hasn't yet been announced exactly when they will release their earnings, but the estimated date is August 28th. So that's there's some very interesting news coming out, and the news is not that Alibaba is buying back tons of their own shares. This has been going on for years. Alibaba has been buying back so many shares that they have seen their shares outstanding continue to decrease each and every quarter. So this is exciting for the company. I think if you are kind of thinking about Alibaba long term, I think they are getting the stock at a great price, and I think this is a great decision for the company. Now, the news is that Alibaba met with some analysts, and they are saying that this quarter for the company is going to be huge, and they are going to come through and beat numbers, basically top, bottom line, and guidance for the company. So this is very exciting, and of course, we could see this stock have another leg up to around 200, and I think over the next 8 to 10 months. And there have been many catalysts behind the recent rally, the first being the US Department of Justice settlement. Earlier this month, Alibaba and its US payment processing subsidiary came to a non-prosecution deal with the DOJ over historical violations involving sale of banned pharmaceutical products. So the settlement calls for Alibaba to pay $325 million in forfeited and penalties for a total of $600 million. Getting that big off the table removes a major source of uncertainty that has been holding back shares. So Alibaba also plays in so many different areas within China, and they have kind of cut out this section of the markets where the Chinese government restricts a lot of competition in the country. So Alibaba is able to capture a lot of that market, and they are basically the number one player in AI. So the number one e-commerce brand, the number one cloud business in the country. And also Alibaba Cloud Intelligence Group posted 38% year-over-year revenue growth in its last quarter and had AI products contribute 30% of external cloud sales. This is the 11th quarter running of triple-digit AI product revenue growth. Alibaba's profits are expected to rebound sharply over the next 2 years, and consensus estimates call for EPS of 8.97 in fiscal 2028, implying a 2028 forward-priced earnings multiple of 12.5 times. So, of course, there are some risks like lack of fresh government stimulus, losses in instant currency business, but I believe the risk-reward equation is tilted favorably towards the Alibaba stock at those levels. And so, now let's talk about Palantir. Why investors are shorting it now? Palantir Technologies, the third stock I would like to cover today. This is a company that has become one of the most polarizing stocks in the market, a true battleground stock where some of the most famous investors on Wall Street are placing massive bets on opposite sides. So Palantir closed at 127.25 on July 13th after trading at 126.79 on July 10th. So the stock is down roughly 36% year to date and nearly 45% below its November 2025 record of 207.52. So the company has a market cap of around 304 billion and trades at about 142 times trading earnings and has returned 700% over the past 3 years. So it has been an incredible winner for long-term holders, but the stock has been absolutely crushed in 2006 and there is massive short thesis behind that decline. So the short thesis, you see the short interest in Palantir is significant, and according to recent data, short interest is around 2.32 to 3.23% of the float. And one source shows that the short percentage of float is 7.04%, and a substantial short position, and it's concentrated among some very high-profile investors. So the most famous short we have is the prominent short seller in Palantir, and that's Michael Burry, the investor that made famous by the big short for his massive bet against subprime mortgages before the 2008 financial crisis. So Burry's hedge fund, Skion Capital, returned nearly 490% between 2000 and 2008. While he no longer runs a hedge fund, but is still a very active investor, and he has one of the largest and most public short positions in Palantir. Barry just disclosed the short position in Palantir in early November 2025. Since then, he has routinely voiced concerns over the company's business, including alleged inflated accounting and high spending on private jets by its chief executive, Alex Karp. So in April 2026, he published a post on Substack confirming he was still holding put options on Palantir, including June 2027 contract with a $50 strike price in December 2026 contracts with $100 strike price. So in other words, Barry is betting that Palantir will fall below 100 by the end of this year and below 50 by June of next year. So on June 2nd, 2026, Barry took to social media to reaffirm his bearish thesis, describing Palantir as a sandcastle that was trading around 16 times the intrinsic value he believes it's actually worth. So he has since said that he doubled his short position and added bearish bets on other tech names as well. However, in the late June, Barry covered about half of his Palantir short position at 107.15, but he continued to hold puts, meaning his bearish stance remains intact. So he's reduced his exposure, but he hasn't closed the position entirely, and that suggests he still sees downside, just perhaps not as aggressive as below. So, but what is this short thesis and why are bears betting against Palantir? So, what is the actual short thesis? Why investors like Michael Burry betting against a company that's growing revenue at 85% and has a 53% net margin? So, the first reason is valuation, which is the most straightforward argument. Palantir trades at about 142 times trading earnings and 80 times forward earnings. So the bear case is that valuation compression and competition from horizontal AI platforms cap the upside even if the business continues to grow. And the second reason is AI competition, where we see the anthropic threat, and it's one of the more existential concern from frontier AI models. So the real problem with the stock, analysts say, is fear about AI's increasing ability to handle the data-heavy workload that Palantir specializes in. So Anthropic put out a blog post earlier this month about its improving data analytics capabilities. That doesn't sound great for software companies like Palantir and Snowflake, according to analysts at UBS. So Also, Alex Kapp, Palantir CEO, has pushed back hard against the capacity of large language models to replicate Palantir's product at commercial level, calling it a farce. So you get to see statements like these ones. And the other reason is insider selling, which is also a concern. But looking at the technical picture, Palantir is still also bearish. It closed at around 116 recently. And also we see the 650-day has been sloping lower since the March peak near 180. And also it acted as resistance during the May rally attempt. However, the bulls aren't backing down either. They have some powerful arguments on that side, which includes the ontology moat that AI spending is moving from tokens to outcomes. And also the fundamentals are still stellar. Yes, and also we see fresh upgrades with people like D.A. Davidson's Gil Luria upgrading Palantir to buy and lifted this target to 175. Okay, so what do you think about these stocks? And let me know in the comments. And what are your views? Please like, share, and subscribe. And remember also to put God first in whatever you do. Thank you. See you then.